Laura Ingraham is going to talk about race on her radio show, and it's just as cringeworthy as you thought it would be.
You got to stay on this Democratic plantation, and if you choose to leave it or go off of it, we will attack you.
Look at what they did to Colonel Allen West. Look at what they did to Justice Clarence Thomas, or tried to do. Look at what they. This is what they do. I mean, everyone from Tom Sowell to Walter Williams, Mia Love, of course. You can't get off the plantation. It is their sole province for maintaining control of the black population. You must be liberal. You must be for certain policies that Al Sharpton and Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid favor. You can't waver, because if you think for yourself, you are, as that caller said, a sellout.
No, you're a sellout when you vote with the people and agree with the people who never wanted you to have rights in the first place. That's when you're a sellout. When you're with the conservatives who fought tooth and nail to make sure that Jim Crow stayed in place, to make sure that the Civil Rights Act wasn't passed, the conservatives, by definition, don't want to change things. They want to hold on to the old way of living. That's, by definition, that's built into what conservatism is. And it's no secret that conservatives all along throughout American history have fought change, and that includes racial change. So if you're a black person and you support Republicans, there absolutely is an undeniable aspect of you're a sellout, or you're just flat out confused about the history of politics in the United States of America. It's not like people try to act like you should blame black people for voting over 90% for Democrats in elections going back to, 1970s and onwards. But that's actually the totally rational response given the history of politics in America. They know that the liberals fought for black people and their rights all along. So why wouldn't you vote for the people who you know they're looking out for the best interest of who you are, when the other people are trying to keep you down in very explicit, specific ways? Republicans never do anything for the black community, and then they act like they berate black people, like, why didn't you vote for us? Well, maybe because you didn't fucking do anything to make them want to vote for you. How about that? And notice they do this all the time, where these right-wing talkers will use old school slave style lingo to berate black people or to speak down to Democrats, where they say, these black people are on the Democratic plantation, and whenever anybody thinks to get off the plantation, I love that, slight fucking jab in there as well. Whenever somebody thinks and they get off the plantation, they're called a sellout. Well, certainly debatable as to whether or not people like Herman Cain, Allen West, they're thinking. Alan Keyes, my ass, they're thinking. They're ridiculous human beings, and they are sellouts. But they always bring up this idea of it's the Democratic plantation. Now, why do they say that? Because they argue, well, as soon as you had the social safety net come into place, as soon as the war on poverty happened, and, when FDR came along before that and he implemented some social safety net programs, well, ever since then, black people have been dependent on government, and that's the Democratic plantation. The idea that we have food stamps and we have welfare and we have Medicaid, well, this is all stuff that it's keeping black people down. As if, taking away health care for poor black kids, as if that's something that's desirable. Like, why can't we just go back to the days when we had no Medicaid? Why can't we just go back to the days where poor black kids had to starve because they don't get $1.30 a meal? I mean, that's the argument underlying this. But they use that lingo on purpose because they try to make people think, vote Democratic, you're gonna stay on the plantation. That's what's gonna happen. But of course, the serious angle is the real modern day plantation, the jails and the prisons, because of the drug war. And guess who supports that more than anybody else? The conservatives and the Republicans. That's the modern day plantation. That's why there's a book written called The New Jim Crow, where it explains how because of the drug war, it's a systemic attack on black America and just minority America in general, where white people and black people use drugs at a very similar rate, but black people get arrested 4 to 6 times more often. That's the new Jim Crow. That's the new plantation. And the conservatives support it. They support that. They're in favor of the drug war. The Democrats, a lot of them are as well, but at least they're trying to chip away and move in a different direction, and they're certainly eventually going to totally move in that direction as more states fall and we go further down the road here. But that's the reality. The thought that by having a social safety net program, it's a plantation. Well, then for fuck's sake, every modern nation in the world has a plantation then. Whether you're talking about Norway or Denmark or Iceland or Sweden or Canada or Australia or Britain or France, everybody in all these countries are slaves on the plantation. Is that what it is? Because they all have health care? Because they all have education? Because they all have a more robust social safety net than America? No, nonsense. There's nothing wrong with the social safety net. We should expand the social safety net. It's a good thing to have the social safety net. To compare that to an old school plantation is offensive and wrong and inaccurate. The real modern day plantation is supported by conservatives and Republicans. It's called the jails, and it's called the new Jim Crow, aka the drug war.